And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Aaron Castro, coming to you from Mesa, Arizona, and I'm joined this week by Victor Perez and Dan Brown in New York City. Josh Fredland kicking it in Denver. Meanwhile, our producer Corey Munson in Iowa is hanging out in the comment section and on Twitter, hashtag EODPod. Check that out, all right? So hit him up with your questions and comments. So how's it going, everyone? Good weekend?
Good weekend.
Yeah, very solid weekend.
Great weekend.
Lots of big games.
All the Eagles won.
All the Eagles won. That's what we wanted.
There was a lot of rugby this weekend.
I watched 6 matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, Aaron, I just noticed, Aaron, that you and I are wristband buddies.
Oh, I think I have another one of these somewhere. I don't know.
Well, wristband buddies.
Nice.
Very nice.
For those new to the podcast, each Monday night we discuss news and rumors from Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union competition. It's a chance to discuss the issues, hear from league and team leadership, and check in with our friends across the United States rugby season. This week we have Dan.
So we've got a couple of topics here. We have, first of all, the Capital Selects played against the Houston Sabercats. After that, we have a great match from this weekend, the start of the ARC, at least for the USA Eagles. Eagles played Argentina 15, and spoiler, they won. So we're going to talk a lot about that, and especially how it's relevant to MLR. And finally, we have some news from the French, ambassadors to USA Rugby. Some meetings happened in France with some people from MLR, and seems like it's some pretty interesting news there. So going to that, I think we're going to jump straight into the Sabercats and the Selects.
Whoa. As you can see, I'm wearing my Canada team polo. I ask you, my friends, to have a moment of silence for the Canadian World Cup ambitions as they must now go to the repechage tournament.
Boo.
Talk about that was some brutal stuff down in Montevideo. So we'll touch on that later. But
I think I actually spilled some beer. I was trying to fake pour it out, and I actually spilled some. I feel like an idiot now.
He poured beer for Canada.
They need it.
Well, Capital Selects at Houston Sabercats. So, Victor, I know you listened to that live while I think you were watching the Eagles match at the same time. So
some crazy multitasking there.
Nothing from me because I've got the Estados Unidos, the Argentina XV report.
Well, guys, actually, I did not watch it live, the Eagles match. I actually waited for it to go on demand and then watch it like that, because I know there were apparently a couple of problems with the stream and everything, and I didn't want to deal with that. I just wanted to watch it straight. So I decided to just focus on the Sabercats CRS Capital Selects.
You weren't live messaging through the system, but my buddy was sending me messages on Facebook. Be like, this stream is going in and out. Now I have a blue screen. What the hell's going on?
I will say they managed to pull through the entire game without the blue screen of, I'm sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties, which I think was amazing. It was still very slow, and there were times where I could have sworn I saw the exact same play just happened, so I couldn't tell if it was lagging or if I was just losing my mind, and that's what the Rugby Channel does to me. But
I had the same issues as Dan did, where it just it kept slowing down and then almost went back. I did get the technical difficulty screen during the UCLA Arizona match, though.
Yeah, I saw that, and as I was trying to watch the very end of it, and I couldn't watch the very end of it. So, oh well.
So that's why I waited out until Sunday to watch all of that. So I didn't have to deal with it. Exactly. But going into the match itself, so It was another great call match from Brent Mills. See, now I have his name down. And our friend, of course, Mr. Grant Cold. So, like what happened with the Nola Gold match, the CRS, again, Capital Rugby Selects, couldn't get their game on. And, of course, the Sabercats, you already know how it is. When they come at you with force, and they just ran over the Capital Selects. Okay, cool thing. There were a lot of double tries, 2 double tries actually. One by Osea Colinisao and the other by Joshua Bishi. So both Fijian Olympic players. Again, each one have 2 tries to the tally. Zach Pangelinin had a perfect 7 out of 7 conversion rate. Didn't miss a kick, and the game ended with a 49-3 score. Also, shout outs to Kenneth P.D. Hepburn that had a great game on the scrum, lifting a player a lot heavier than himself in the process when he was scrummaging with this guy. It looked really cool. And as you guys probably know, this week they're going to be playing against the Chicago Lions. So we'll see how that pans out. So that's pretty much the report, very short.
Yeah, there was actually one really, I guess, interesting topic from this. So we saw that there was a new player that played for Houston. He's the 6'4", 297-pound Shantez Jackson. This is a guy who has never played a game of rugby or a match of rugby in his entire life. He is a former defensive lineman for the University of Houston. I think he just graduated. And at least according to Grant Cole, the rugby evangelist, he's been practicing with them for about 2 months so far.
Yep.
Played the last 8 minutes of this match and apparently ran over about 3 or 4 rucks. I don't know how much he really knew what he was doing, but Grant says that his coachability is just as incredible as his size. So this is someone who hopefully can really stick it with the team. I'd like to see them reach out and get 1 or 2 project players, especially from the same area. So we'd love to see some more. I know Nola has a couple that seem kind of interesting. So we'd love to see these big guys, with this raw strength and raw power just come in, at least 1 or 2, just to throw in a little monkey wrench there. But that's all I've got too from the Capital Selects match. So I know we have really what we all were waiting for and wanted to talk about the most, the USA versus Argentina match. I would jump right into it, but as you can see, if you're actually watching this, as you can see, the Strobro actually made an appearance and it was the game itself.
Earful of Dirt deployed forward to Carson, California, I bought 2 tickets. I think next time I will make sure I actually bring a photographer, aka enlist my significant other as a photographer, so that I don't have to mess around, because StubHub is a little more up on their security when it comes to access than Talent Energy was. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we just walked in. Almost didn't have to show tickets.
Man, it was as a facility, that place is something else. It's world class. I was there 12 years ago. Freddie Adu playing for DC United in his first game. I went and was on the East Stand at the time, and everything was bench seating, and they've since replaced all the bench seating with fold down chairs. So tons of upgrades have happened to the place, pardon me. And really, if we could draw well, that should be the American home in the California area. Because if we could get 27,000 people there, it's going to be loud. It was the South Stand was atmosphere where I spent most of the game with my girlfriend, going up in between, to the press box. And it was so loud. Some guys are saying, hey, respect the kicker. Hey, things are different culturally. in America, we like to heckle with the best of them. And when the Argentines had the ball, the South Stand got raucous, whether they were kicking it or they were just advancing the ball and, creating disruption, which was awesome. If you're talking about refreshments, I think there were about 8 different beers you could buy. So, for the adults in the room, there's a lot of different food options, great stuff. Spoke with Calder Cahill, the new media director for USA Rugby. Great dude. He's going to be great to work with going forward. Getting to the match specifically, a couple of observations outside of the match report. I didn't know where Argentina 15 was in their development cycle, as this resembles the experience level they brought in the 2016 squad rather than the 2017 squad. A lot more capped guys last year. This year is a lot more young guys. A lot of these guys are from their U20 side from 2 years ago, which was an amazing side that competed in the Junior World Championship. We're seeing the systems in place that were put in place by Mitchell when it comes to like team ownership and individual fitness. They're still like operating on those. So, we had what it took in the last quarter of the game to finish. The tempo with our offense seemed to shift drastically when Sean Davies got on the pitch at the 55-minute mark, which I mentioned in the recap. Faster getting the ball out of the set piece and into space. Maybe it was just, he was fresh. I don't know. But the strategy seemed to put in place by Coach Gold during camp was very important, and the continuity from the November staff was key for me. You only really saw the offensive shape that they wanted to run with the forwards for about 10, 15 minutes because the Argentine defense was just so stingy and so attacking. I think overall the staff fits very well with what Gary wants to do. So if you go to the official time clock, Dylan Owdsley played for 72 minutes as a debutant off the bench when I forget who it was, from Argentina committed what should have been a red card offense. It was a late tackle on Marcel Brocchi. He had passed the ball and it was out of his hands about, probably like 4 seconds when he initiated that tackle. But Owdsley, very talented player. He crushed it. Then, the hammer, Hanko Hammerscheis. He sealed the deal, causing that, knock on from Bruni in extra time, which, had us win the match 17-10, getting the Argentine 15 monkey off our back. So I'm very excited about the next few weeks, guys.
Yeah, that was that play by Hanko was just great because in that scenario, a lot of players, especially younger players, would typically just sort of go for the tackle. Similar to how in football you just go for the tackle to stop them, but the play is still live once you pass the plane. So he's aware of that and made sure to actually go for the ball. Thankfully, he did because they might have missed the kick, but I'm sure it would have ended in a tie, and I would have been very upset. But you touched on something that I thought was really important, was that the end of the match is actually when I felt that we took the biggest impact or had the biggest impact. I think that some of our depth players were actually better than some of, or maybe even should have started over some of our other players. I thought Sean Davies should have started for, really the same reason that you said that. I also thought Andrew Duratalo maybe should have started, but he's also a real energy boost off the bench. Someone like David Tamalau, who obviously wasn't playing, but he's just got that sort of that tough mentality that he'll just run through you, and that's something that you don't really want to go up against when there are only 20 minutes left of the game. The other reason too was that Sean Davies and Will McGee both playing together would have been really good just based on their continuity together. But with having a whole new number 10 and then switching up to having Augsburger as scrum half, I didn't think that was necessarily the best idea. I think they could have started off a lot better in the beginning. Well, anyway, I know that this is all a new staff. Gary Gold didn't even pick the roster. He is learning all the players, so I'm sure he pretty much just went with, what he thought made sense. He knows a couple of the players so far, so really excited to see what he has coming up, because it was a bit messy, especially in the beginning. But just like you, I'm really excited for the future, especially next couple of weeks. I don't actually have a specific man of the match, but one of my favorite players to watch from this match was probably Mikey Teo. Just because every time he got the ball, he managed to run into someone who was bigger than him, and yet somehow not only would stiff arm him off him, but would actually physically push the guy and stop him and just throw him back and keep running for another couple meters. That was just awesome to see, because he's sort of like a smaller guy, but he's really kind of built stockily. So that was really
well, he was a defensive lineman in high school.
So that probably plays a little bit into that, at least just a tiny bit. He also actually had a really perfectly placed kick too, when the ball got knocked back probably towards the 22 of the Eagles, and then he kicked it, and it ran basically right up along the line, and the Argentinian player stopped because he thought it was going to go right out, but it landed literally right next to the touchline or out of bounds. I always get confused with the specific phrasings, but landed right there and just went right out from there. So it was absolutely perfect dead shot from him. So maybe actually I might give him my man of the match. I'm not sure, but I just thought he was the most exciting. So at least that's my recap. Victor, what do you think after being able to actually watch it on replay without any issues? What do you think?
Wow, is the answer I'll give you, Dan. So far, the Eagle match that I have enjoyed the most of all of the ones I've seen thus far. And now the USA versus Canada for the World Cup, that was my number one. It definitely has slid now to number two. It felt that from the beginning, USA had the matchup down packed, even with all the several errors they did, as USA Eagles usually do. I was adding, by the way, that Marcel Bracchi had to leave the field so early after, I think it was Juan Capiello just randomly tackled him. But I have to say, Dylan Oxley made it seem that he belongs in the national team. I was quite surprised with the kid. Him and Bryce Campbell are the young center pairing that USA definitely needs with the World Cup coming up. Will Hooley definitely took my fears away after his performance, and it seems that the fly half position is something USA does not have to worry about as much as prior years, which is great. That's a position that the Eagles have usually struggled in terms of depth. By the way, I agree with Daniel. Mike Teo, that guy was everywhere on the field, always on the high ball. He reminded me very much like a player in Aussie rules, so certain rules football. You had to jump a lot to catch the ball. So very similar technique, if you may, and definitely one of his best performance in an Eagles jersey, in my opinion. And speaking of the Argentina 15 team, they came determined, obviously, to ride the ROMs from last year, and they kept that tempo up. But Hanko Hermachais stopped a possible third try by tackling Rodrigo Bruni to then knock on, and the match ended, by the way, with a 17-10 score. For those of you listening, if you do not know for whatever reason. And keep in mind, guys, that the next match coming up is this upcoming Saturday. It's going to be at Papa Murphy's Park in Sacramento, California, capital of the state of California. Again, Rugby Channel. If you don't want to deal with the technical issues, do what I did. I didn't talk to anyone for the whole weekend, and I just watched it after I got home.
Papa Murphy's?
Papa.
I think. Isn't this called Papa Murphy's Park?
No, say it like a potato.
Potato Murphy's?
Papas.
Papa.
Oh, Papas.
Papa Murphy.
Oh, excuse me.
So,
what did I say? Papa?
You said Papa.
Papa.
Papa? Oh, I didn't know this. Okay. That's cool.
So
I'm sorry. I thought I said Papa. I'm sorry.
Will Hooley is an interesting option. He was like, I stood next to him in the press tunnel as they were going in. He's a big boy. Like, he's not stocky and wider and as heavy as, say, Bryce Campbell, but he provides an interesting option. We could go a little bit like England, to be honest. We could put 2 fly halves on the pitch with, say, McGee and Hooley at 12 and then put Bryce at 13. Something like that. Or say AJ. Because Will's not that small, but Will McGee is not that small, but Will Hooley is bigger than him. So you could put them both on the pitch and it would provide you, with AJ out, it would provide you some interesting options right now. They're both really good with their boots. I wouldn't mind having them both on the pitch at the same time. I'm really glad that we capped that dude for playing out of the Bedford Blues. He's ours now. For those, we sort of talked about him last week, but for those listening at home, he was an England under 20 guy, age grade. So he had I think an illness last year when he was playing with Exeter that sort of like knocked him off the radar. And now he's with Bedford Blues, but thank his grandma. Thank his grandma. He's ours.
Actually, no. Josh actually just pointed out he's not technically ours yet because Argentina 15 doesn't count as a cap.
Well, true, but it is an appearance for the senior national team.
Yeah, he's also going to play next week.
And based on not my conversation with Gary Gold, because I did have a conversation with him, but the press conference after the match is that he's not into changing a bunch of things. So as long as he has this 23 together, he's gonna use the same 23 guys. But he's gonna have to add one more because based on what he said at the press conference, they suspect that Marcel has an MCL injury. So we're going to have to bring in another center. So Owdsley is probably going to start this week. And then, I think Will Hooley will see a lot more time. It's going to be a good week for the Eagles as long as we get out of our heads, because I think we were sort of in our heads a little bit in the first half. And allow ourselves to be coached and play to the game plan.
I think actually with Hooley too is he came in and he was someone I forgot to mention before that he was a sub, but he came in and he played in the English age grade system, so he has the fundamentals that a lot of Americans may tend to not have, especially at the fly half position and especially as a sub. So whether he's starting or if he's a sub, he's bringing a lot of value that we may not have necessarily had before. That I think was really great. And I really loved his performance. I thought he did a bit better than McGee. I think McGee missed a kick too. I'm not mistaken.
So Will missed a penalty and a conversion.
Yeah.
And then made the other two.
Yeah.
So yeah. The conversion was not in a nice spot.
Yeah.
So
Hooley offers a really great boost. Whether he's starting or as depth. So I'm really looking forward to that. And one last point I actually have to make about this match was that I really like Argentina 15 against the USA. Every time they play each other, they're obviously very, very evenly matched. I think the overall score is probably something like 77-70 for the past couple of years. So they're obviously very evenly matched. But what I really love to see too is that you always see at least 3 or 4 scuffles break out. They never turn into anything really big, but you always see in the background some guys pushing each other or something like that. I just think it makes it a bit more exciting. I love it.
Well, Saturday, it almost there was a lot of comments about the reffing in some other publications, which you can go find them. I don't care. But if you're measuring all 3 of the Argentina 15 versus US matches that Chris Asmus has, reffed, this was his best one. But he had to stop, pretty much get control early because there was a lot of contentious, cynical plays. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I live also Argentina, especially Argentina 15 has a very they sort of pull some club rugby antics that I think a lot of the professional teams don't necessarily have as much. That's just my own personal opinion from watching very limited rugby. But they kind of throw in these little chip shots that I don't really see with some of these other tier 1 nations where everyone's been playing professionally since they were 20 or something like that. It's just kind of fun to see. I really like it.
Josh, you had a question.
Yeah, you mentioned bringing in a replacement for Marcel Brockie. Does that mean Gary Gold puts in Paul Lasike as a backup, or does he put in somebody like, say, Alex Elkins?
So you take this for what you will, but I would say 2 injury replacements that were there. I got the bag holders and the water holders. Everyone else was in civilian clothes in the stands, from what I could tell. Were Paul Lasike and Sam Wuching. So I think, the reason why you get to hold the bags and carry the water is because you're higher up in the pecking order. So I could see Sam Wuching and Paul Lasike play against Canada. So there might be 2 changes, but overall I think the squad's going to be the same. But we do need a center, right? And I will point out that Sam Wuching used to play center, and Paul Lasike plays center. So we'll see. Guys, do we want to put a line on the Canada match?
I just want to say, not bragging, but I was right about the USA Rugby versus Argentina match. I said they'd win by 7.
That's what I said.
Just saying. Yeah, well, I said it too. I mean, you could be right, but
I was operating in a vacuum when I said that. So I didn't say that. So I'm not saying you didn't say that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I don't care who else said it. I said it, and I was right. I'm happy. That's all I really want to mention. Maybe someone else said it too. Whatever. But I didn't say 17-10, but this one I think that
I thought it was going to be higher scoring, to be honest.
I thought so too. I thought it'd be closer, like 27-20 or 34-27, something like that. Canada, yeah, I need to do math there. Canada, though, I think that we'll beat them by at least 10. That's just my guess there. We'll see if that happens.
So we play per the game plan. Systems are in place. 20. I'm putting the 20 for USA.
Victor?
I'll go 15.
Or Josh? Are we playing Price is Right rules? Is that how this works?
The one closest to the actual number is the one that wins. You want to do it like that?
Without going over.
You win a T-shirt from our Teespring account that we're about to start that you have to buy yourself.
Yeah.
I'll also do 15.
It's not fun.
All right. Corey, you going to come out of the cave? What do you got? No?
Yep.
No?
Yep. I'm coming. Just takes a minute. Had to, fire up the coal-powered camera there to get it turned on. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and go way out there. I'm going to say this is going to be a shutout for the Eagles. I think they're going to hold Canada to 0. I don't care what the score on top of that is, but
3-0.
Let's see that. I mean, it's the only thing we haven't accomplished over Canada at this point. So,
yeah.
Well, I think that's a fair point that you made, Aaron. Since they had this one match, they got to play together, and then they also have some more training coming up, and they're all still in SoCal. They don't really have to fly back and forth. They're all staying pretty close. I'm hoping that a couple extra, some extra time together, and a coach that actually knows what he's doing too. He can look through the film and kind of pick out what he likes.
There's a lot of drama going up there. I just pulled it up. Was it Pat Parfrey has resigned from the Rugby Canada board? So, yeah.
A lot of stuff on the top.
We just got to play our game, get out of our heads, execute.
Yeah, on to Saturday.
Now the
Yeah.
question: who is Pat Paffrey? For those of you listening,
He is a former Canadian national team coach and Irish international. I can pull up his number if you want me to pull up his number.
Cell phone?
what was he was what coach for Canada? Attack,
Their
conditioning?
national team head coach.
Former.
No, wasn't
Oh,
it? I thought it was Kinsley Jones.
No. Former
Okay.
Pat Parfrey is a board member.
I'm sorry. I'm confused. Okay, got it. Makes more sense now.
So yeah, a question I had is, are they going to fire the head coach? And I was like, they just hired Kingsley Jones.
There's no way.
I was like,
Yeah, they just hired him like
they just hired him in like August. You know,
I don't want to necessarily just say the failures, because I know we like to joke about Canada, but I guess the failures in this case of not becoming America's 1 or America's 2 go far beyond what a new head coach brought in a couple months ago would have been able to really change.
If Anscombe was still here, he had supposedly he had a chance if he didn't open his Yap, depending on what you read, because there was I think there was a player revolt. But if Anscombe still had a chance to like stay as the head coach, he would have been fired because of this. But I don't think you can fire a guy who has coached Canada for 4 matches.
Yeah, he probably only had them for camp for a week or so, unless they all happen to be in Vancouver area.
No, so he had them for 2 weeks. They flew the entire national team to England, and they trained with the Harlequins, and then they flew back with all their international team, their pros. And so back to Pat Parfrey, he is Ireland number 757, and he was a wing.
Ooh.
So just throwing that out there. But I think we hit this on. I got a few comments to say about our next subject. But fellas, last week, Dean House, Nick Benson, Richard Osborne, led by Thierry Dupont, met with French clubs and Ligue Nationale de Rugby leadership. What do you think of that?
Well, let me go first on that. So I think that the top 14 is not the best league in the world, as the article said, the article that was posted on our Reddit page. If you are not following,
What are you talking about? If you want to get paid, that's where you go. That's where you go if you want to get paid.
In Japan.
If you want to, and Japan, of course, that's if you want to get paid. But if we're talking about the play itself, definitely not France. Definitely not. But in any case, but seriously, glad the LNR and MLR are helping each other to grow the game of rugby here in North America by teaching our new league how to run operations and how to make it grow over time. And obviously with that, the MLR is going to learn what things not to do, as the National Rugby League does in France. So we'll see what happens with that. Dan,
I
had to dust up my French a bit to actually get through this article, so that was actually non-existent. But thankfully, Thierry Dupont actually provided us on our Reddit page with a full translation, because usually my fallback is just copy the entire thing and then put it in Google Translate, but I couldn't actually copy the words, so I was, shit out of luck basically. So he posted that, and it's a lot of stuff just saying like, oh, they're meeting, which is awesome, because then it's still one of the best leagues, even if you don't think it's the best league, which it does kind of say that in the article. They're still well run in a certain extent for whatever your opinion is of them. But it's great to hear from the minds over there in France, but also it looks like there may be some sort of potential maybe like player swaps or partnerships or anything like that. I mean, really anything like that to get experience from guys over in France would be great for this league. You don't want to just do it by yourself and say, what you're doing. You want to actually go to a league, especially a league like Top 14, which is in many cases private, as opposed to a lot of other leagues around the world.
So, say what you want, Victor. But I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best league, but it's definitely one of the top leagues in the world. People think that Super Rugby is the best. People think that, as far as commercialization of rugby is concerned, LNR operates completely independently and without subsidy from their home union. Unlike Aviva, you have a £250 million agreement over 4 years to subsidize for access to players. With the Aviva Premiership, and then Pro 14 and Super Rugby are majority owned by their unions. So really, the lessons learned is if we're having a privately controlled league, they need to talk to the people that have to fully commercialize rather than rely on subsidy. And
I gotcha.
There's plenty of good rugby being played in France right now. Not Toulon, but what was it? Not Marseille. Toulouse and Clermont, right? Jeez. Coaches, academy exchanges. Yeah, well, so it's something. And further commercialization, could this lead to a bilateral agreement for, say, at the beginning, a sort of Champions Cup-esque thing with Pro D2 and MLR? It would be nice, right? Because club rugby in South America isn't at the point where we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do need to have some sort of cross-border, professional Champions Cup. I guess that's the easiest way of saying it, like the European Cup. Obviously, we wouldn't do that with Canada because they'd be part of MLR, so it kind of defeats the purpose. But if you did something like that, maybe 2 teams from here, in the future, 2 teams from Canada, play against Pro D2, play against, what is it, the Green King IPA Championship or whatever it's called. Something like that would definitely just be a good start. Maybe some teams that got promoted, some that just got relegated, make it fun, bring fans in, yada yada, all that stuff.
It would be cool to have in the future in American style Champions Cup, but of course you need to rely on the other countries to get their level up, have professional leagues of their own, things like that. I mean, we're not in the level as football soccer is right now, for example. Exactly. And speaking of football soccer, guys. Yeah, give me a second. Soccer? Speaking of football soccer, real quick. Speaking of football soccer, do you think in the future of rugby we'll ever have that how do they call it in soccer? That it's a swap system, as if for example a loan system. There we go.
Player loan. I mean,
player loans, exactly.
So we have that with. So we have that between the Premiership and the RFU Championship, right? Well, John Mills, who is a player coach with the London Scottish, was supposed to come over here and play with the Griffins as a player coach on loan from the London Scottish. So I think it was going to be an experiment. I don't know.
I don't see too many loans that have happened. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but I haven't seen too many loans happen. Unless it was like an injury loan, like Nick Savetta, or he got loaned to Doncaster. I mean, it should happen, but maybe rugby is more injury prone, so people don't want to throw out their players there for that.
I would really not really. I wouldn't say like first side loans, but academy. I wouldn't call them loans, but academy exchanges, because the Glendale went to Bath and spent a week at Bath and observed everything there. And they talked about bringing in their academy players over here, for extra game time. So I would like to be academy exchanges. So a guy goes over there for, 3 months, and like one of their guys comes over here for 3 months, things like that.
And then even if they do like end up getting injured, it's not like you're sending your best player or even just like a regular sub for a pro side over. But they also, even if they do get injured, they come back with their own experiences of what they learned in the different countries.
Yeah.
Obviously, we will likely learn a lot more from sending someone to England than England coming here, but they could also come here and they could learn a hell of a lot about what's going on in the American rugby culture, and we can have our own style of play that is completely foreign to those kinds of players. So it creates a different dynamic that I think is just beneficial for everyone involved.
So, moving on, we only had 2 players signed last week. Damn.
Really exciting week for player signing. So the Seawolves actually signed hooker Mike Shepard. He's a pretty accomplished rugby player so far in the U.S. First started playing with Brownsburg Rugby Club, and he was a U18 high school All-American selection. He then started attending Indiana University. He was a 2-time JAA, I think Junior All-American, 2-time All-American with Indiana University Rugby before transferring to University of Utah, where he again be selected for the All-Americans. Selected for the USA Selects in 2015, and then most recently was on the Washington Athletic Club Sevens during the Club Sevens National, and has been playing with Saracens for a while. So first time I saw this, I saw Utah, so I immediately thought it was a steal, but I didn't realize he's actually been playing with Seattle Saracens for some time. So I think around this time, we're starting to see a lot more people or players getting signed from the local clubs, filling in the spots, especially if there's someone like this who's basically been an All-American from high school all the way through college. So that's who the Seawolves signed there. They actually signed another Saracen for their side too.
That's right, Dan. The other Saracen was Mike Garrity, who plays as a number 12 and inside center. And he's originally from Centennial, Colorado. And he started his rugby with his high school team from Regis Jesuit High School. And that was back in 2003. Then when he moved to collegiate rugby, he was with Colorado State University. And his club rugby, he played it with Denver Barbarians. You may also probably know him from the Denver Stampede from rugby. And again, he's currently with Seattle Saracens. He's also a cap eagle, by the way, number 478. And he got his first cap at the inaugural America's Rugby Championship, as you may know, back in 2016, and that was against Canada. And he had his second cap against Brazil, which is a game that we lost to Brazil with that last kick by Moises Duque, who can put as, like, I guess, the Pele of rugby now for Brazilian rugby. And he hasn't played ever since. So hopefully with this new signing to the Seawolves, he should be able to be back in the spotlight of the Eagle squad. But I mean, again, we already talked about Dylan Osley, Bryce Campbell, and Marcel Brocky holding those center roles. So who knows if he ever comes back.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Pretty well.
Good.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm back. Actually,
Hey.
I now that I've gotten my Canada hate week kicked off right with some opinions there. So I wanted to kind of jump in real quick and interrupt our proceedings because we want to talk directly to our audience and our listeners right now about some opportunities. As we're working to grow this podcast and do a better job covering Major League Rugby, we want to offer you the opportunity to share your products and information with our audience through advertising. So advertising is something a lot of podcasts do, and something we've held off on doing thus far, but economics being what they are, it would be helpful. And so we really want to give you guys the opportunity to share what's important to you and what you think our audience needs to know about. So go ahead, if you want to advertise with Earful of Dirt, reach out to us either through our Gmail account, that's earfulofdirt@gmail.com, or by calling and leaving a message at 720-600-2679. And just reach out and let us know what you're thinking. And I just would real quick give a final shout out to say that we are the only consistently weekly podcast and live stream dedicated 100% to Major League Rugby. So I think what we have to offer you guys is a very active and engaged audience, and I look forward to talking with you further about what kind of stuff we can bring to you. So now that a minute and a half of your life is gone, I'm going to turn this over to Dan for Tweet of the Week.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Moving on. Now you heard our corporate sales pitch. We're coming sellouts here. So we got this Tweet of the Week. I actually saw this yesterday while watching the Super Bowl. It comes with an image, so you probably have to actually see it. We'll share it later afterwards. But Austin Elite Rugby shared basically the picture of that kid who was during halftime during the Super Bowl, where he was right in front of Justin Timberlake, but for some reason was just standing on his phone the entire time, even though Justin Timberlake wanted to be in a video with him. So basically they said, we all know what this kid was doing on his phone. Hashtag Super Bowl, hashtag MLR 2018 at USMLR, hashtag Austin Elite Rugby. And there's a picture of the kid looking at his phone, and then right next to it was the Austin Elite Rugby jersey or the kit that just went up for sale. So I could definitely see a lot of these memes coming up with MLR in the next couple of weeks, but this is the first one I saw, and it happened very quickly, so I will have to applaud them for that, because they had to actually stop what they're doing while watching the Super Bowl, put this together real quick, and then tweet it, all within probably 20 minutes of it actually happening. So that's the Tweet of the Week. We'll share it later. Now I think we got some news, views, and abuse just came out. Who's doing the news, views, and abuse? So did we determine that?
So did we have any trending topics this week?
There wasn't much news this week. So.
All right. So what do we got? So thank you to Yorkton This Week and the editor Calvin Daniels for the mention in your column. City of Houston, courtesy of Josh, sent me this article. I'm surprised I did not read it on Friday. They are going to, because of a quality of life bond a couple years ago in 2012, I guess, 7 years ago now, or 5 years ago. 6. I can't do math. They're going to reimburse the Houston Sabercats for the first phase of their stadium. Like $5.2 million. So that's really cool. Seattle Seawolves this Sunday against Crimson Tide Rugby from Vancouver Island. Well, actually, I think it's supposed to be the combined Crimson Tide versus, was it Crimson, like Vancouver Tsunami? Or did that change? I thought it was supposed to be the combined side. So
like the All-Star team or select?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 2 combined select sides. And apparently they're all Giants. BC Rugby News says the game will be put on YouTube after the match is over. So it's not live. And then Seawolves are also partnering with Force 10 Sports Management for strategic communications. Corey, on to you for questions from Bob.
All right. So seems to be a reoccurring theme. We don't have any questions from Bob tonight. Don't have any trending topics. Got no news. Got no signings. God, what are we even doing on air, people?
Boring. This is probably the worst podcast to actually bring up the advertising plug.
Probably, yeah. An example of how amazing we are.
We have nothing.
Yeah. So we got no questions from Bob. And so, Bob, I guess my question to you, my friend, where are the questions? Let's get it going. So always hit us up on reddit.com/r/mlrugby. And, we post something each week asking for questions. And I know we were a little late with it this week. That was my fault for not being on top of my game. So we'll do better next time, and we'll generate some questions coming. But while I'm on the subject of Reddit, if you guys don't mind, I think we'll just go ahead and slide right on into the final thoughts. I'll do my piece and then let you guys finish us up, okay?
Sounds good.
So, yeah. I guess I just want to take a real quick second and just talk about our Reddit page. So once again, it's reddit.com/r/MLRugby. The reason I'm talking about this today is because this week we hit a threshold. We passed the 1,000 subscriber mark, and that's just, it makes me feel good. It makes my heart feel good. This is a project that I started February 14th, 2017, so almost exactly a year ago now. And just to see everybody buy in, to see this podcast grow out of it, to see 1,000 subscribers jump on and it growing every single day, and excitement about the league growing every day, and more people getting turned on to rugby in the United States. That's really what we'd set out to accomplish. What I was hoping to see was to really get some folks excited, and it's just gone above and beyond anything I could imagine. So my final thought is just to say thank you to everybody who's been involved. If you're listening to us and you're not on our Reddit page, well, that's strange, but I definitely encourage you to check it out. A lot of fantastic conversation throughout the week over there, and a lot of the stuff, honestly, that we don't even cover on the show, especially the rumor mill. If you want the latest and greatest out of MLR, some of the stuff that may not even be 100% confirmed yet, be sure to check out reddit.com/r/MLRugby. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for making it a great year. And we're looking forward to April 21st. Good things are coming.
I will say, too, just to add on to that, that even if you absolutely hate Reddit because you think everyone that goes on it is a complete troll, maybe the case, I'm not sure. This is, from what I know, I haven't been able to find anything else just like it, but it's the most comprehensive, I guess, source for MLR-related news, because the second there is even the slightest mention of MLR in any kind of local farm town newspaper or anything like that, it gets posted on there. So if you want to keep up to date, whether it's BS rumors or actual news, go on there. There are some players and some of the people who are affiliated with MLR who do tend to go on there from time to time. That's actually where we got the translation for the French article from Thierry Dupont from Austin Elite Rugby. But regardless, there's a lot of just comprehensive news articles there. You can ignore the comments all you want and just click on the articles if that's what you really want. It's fine with us. And then watch the show. And then give us 5 stars. And then advertise. That's all I got to say about that little thing. That was my plug.
Well, guys, I think we should do a clap for the 1,000 subscriber mark, shall we?
Soft clap.
There we go. Yeah, not too loud because it's slating in a couple of places here. Okay, guys, so before I go into my piece, Josh, let me give you the word real quick because I know you have a couple of things you would like to mention. So please go right ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. It's after the show. Okay, very well. It's okay. I thought it was during the show. I'm sorry. It's okay, guys. It's something personal. We're going to move on. No problem. So, by the way, real quick, guys, before we go to the end of the show, which is running quite fast, by the way, guys, we did great. If you haven't noticed, we have a new logo, and I'm surprised no one here mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
hey, print the shirts! Print the shirts!
Yeah, I guess it would have been nice of us to say something about that, wouldn't it? Oh, golly.
Beautiful. Well, yes, guys, we definitely have it. Well, the logo, which was created by the gentleman that just talked before me, Mr. Corey Munson, how do I describe it? It's a stick figure, very similar to the one used in the Olympics for the Rugby Sevens competition. So, although a very different positioning, because it's like a stick figure with a ball running, and that's the symbol in the Olympics that represents Rugby Sevens. So this one is of what it looks to me like a player with a scrum cap and something that looks like a arm holding the ball, and the face of the player makes the F of Earful and then of Dirt, and then in the bottom says Major League Rugby Podcast. It looks really cool, I have to say. So yeah, guys, we're already thinking merchandising with that logo, putting it in shirts, and hats. Hopefully New Era branded. I mean, we'll see. Cross our fingers. But in any case, these are obviously going to be shirts that we're going to be wearing probably whenever we go to a match, so people know obviously who we are. Also, we're thinking about pulling out some business cards with the logo in the back. I'm definitely thinking of doing that for myself. So I don't know. And seriously, things are endless. So we'll see. But definitely business cards. I would definitely like to have one that says Victor Perez, tour guide, rugby enthusiast, and then in the bottom, as well in the back, has the Earful of Dirt logo. So that's my thought of right now.
I mean, the logo puts us. The logo helps us out and it puts us on a different level, because I remember being at Lost Afternoon and being asked for a business card, and I was like, shit.
Well, you can find us at earfulofdirt.com and 720-600-7279, whatever it is.
But yeah, good shot. Okay, beautiful. So guys, everyone, we have come to an end of episode. This is episode 22 of the Earful of Dirt podcast. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us. Those of you on the live stream, all 5 of you, thank you. We definitely appreciate that. If you're not on the live stream, that's okay. And we know that you're listening to the podcast version, which of course, thank you for listening, whether it's through SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Acast, Player FM. Hopefully you downloaded the audio file so you can listen to it. Also, guys, be on the lookout, because besides the podcast, we're also going to have another edition of Lineouts by Earful of Dirt, our interview series, and you're going to be listening to an interview that I had with current Dominican Republic head coach, Mr. Colin Brown. It was a great interview, as we will hear when we get to it. So we're going to be on the lookout for that. That should be coming out this week alongside, again, this episode 22. Also, guys, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. That will be Earful of Dirt podcasts. So you obviously should check out the live streams that we have every Monday, 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Yeah, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Sorry, I was blanking for a moment. And of course, make sure to leave us a review on our platforms, mostly iTunes, because it's the biggest one. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review on that. Also, the phone number, which we mentioned a couple of times already, again, that's 1-720-600-2679. Again, that's 1-720-600-2679. Again, make sure to drop us a voicemail and, of course, call us, because we want some sponsorship. Hopefully that happens. And with that, we have come to an end, again, to the Earful of Dirt podcast with a D, excuse me. So, again, guys, Victor, that was Corey Munson. That was Josh Franklin, Daniel Brown, another guy from the book. And again, that's Fidel Castro's, if I guess, family member, Aaron Castro, although Mexican and not Cuban. I had to drop that. You got it. We'll see you next week. You got to drop that.